Greg Roman is a bum. Do you hear me, dog? Wink Martindale is a bum. John Harbaugh needs to go. His time has passed. He needs to be let go. And if Eric DeCosta doesn't have the balls to do it, he needs to be let go too. This is terrible, dog. I gave myself a couple days to try to calm down after the Miami loss. I still ain't calmed down yet. It's been like, I don't even know how many days it's been. I think it's been like 4 or 5 days. I still can't believe I had to sit through that I had to witness that, dog. We lost to the Miami Dolphins. The Miami Dolphins, a team that is in shambles. A game that should have been a blowout. I had predicted that game, the final score, to be 45-13. I thought this was supposed to be the easiest game of the year for us. And somehow, the problems that keep coming back week after week happened again. And this time, it bit us in the butt. These same problems are there, and nobody in this front office wants to do anything about it. Everybody needs to go. I'm not debating with anybody on this. I'm not debating with anybody on this anymore. This whole coaching staff is terrible. Everybody needs to go. They're all terrible. Everybody needs to go. Nobody's prepared. They get off to slow starts. They're always out of position. Every week there's people are talking about miscommunications. Every week this terrible defense is giving up ridiculous highlight plays to any team, including the Dolphins. They allowed Tua Tagovailoa and Jacoby Brissett to throw for over 300 yards. Are you kidding me, dog? They ain't even have Devontae Parker out there, and everybody else in their receiving core balled out, dog. You're giving up 64-yard passes to Albert Wilson. You're giving up 52-yard passes to Isaiah Ford. You're giving up 35-yard passes to Jalen Waddle. This is ridiculous, dog. This is ridiculous. This defense is terrible, and the coaching for the defense is even worse. Now, that being said, there were, I guess you could say on the bright side, there was like 4 sacks in that game. Like Patrick Queen got one, Josh Bynes got one, Odafe Owe got one, and Justin Houston got one. It was Justin Houston's 100th sack, so congrats to him. But overall, the defense looked terrible. There was another impressive play Josh Bynes made in the red zone. I forgot what quarter that was, but Josh Bynes had he not only did he deflect a pass that could have been a touchdown, he fully palmed it and threw it in the other direction. I would have rather him try to bring it in for a catch, but it was still a nice play. But overall, the defense still sucks. This is it. We have the 9th as of right now. We now have the 9th worst defense in the NFL. And it's not like there aren't talented players on this defense, but number one, the talented players are having a terrible year, especially Marlon Humphrey, who is arguably our best corner. And number two, this coaching sucks. You don't even know just how talented your defense is or is not when you have a coach this incompetent who wants to do nothing but blitz. You don't even know what you have. You had a bunch of people convincing themselves that Matthew Judon wasn't good enough, but then guess what? Matthew Judon goes to a team in the Patriots that actually let him, do what he's actually good at, and now he's one of the top he's one of the top leaders in the NFL in sacks. He's outperforming pretty much our whole defense when it comes to sacks right now. This defense is terrible. This is embarrassing. Every time you turn around, they're giving up 400 yards to this team in passing yards, 300 yards to this team in passing yards. They've given up 3 400-yard passers in the first 9 games. And they've also given up several 300-yard passers in the first 9 games. This defense is terrible. They're allowing over 280 passing yards a game. This is just awful. And some people are trying to say that, oh, well, you know, the defense held them in check. No, they didn't. No, they did it. This is one of the worst. The Dolphins right now are one of the worst teams in the NFL, period. They have a bottom 5 defense and a bottom 3 offense. No, excuse me. A bottom 4 offense and a bottom 4 defense. Excuse me. They're doing awful on both sides of the football. And you allowed that team to still get touchdowns off on you. You allowed big plays from both the quarterbacks they had playing the game. You had just Jacoby Brissett throwing 50-yard passes. You got Tua Tagovailoa throwing 64-yard passes. This team is in shambles, and you're letting them get off big plays and scoring points on you. It's pathetic, man. And then our offense didn't do that good. Didn't have a good game either, man. It was just ridiculous to try to sit through that, man. And this team is refusing to get Lamar adequate help. Lamar he didn't have a bad game. He had an okay game. But that's the problem, is like, in order for this team to inch out a win, Lamar has to play at pretty much a Hall of Fame God level just for them to win a game by 3 to 5 points. And then in a game like this, where he just plays okay, there's nobody around to help pick up the slack. Which goes to the bigger point many of us have been making. This offense is terrible. This defense is terrible. But more importantly, the offense is terrible. Because when it comes down to it, in today's NFL, your defense being good isn't really that important. If you have a high-powered offense like the Rams, like the Buccaneers, like the Chiefs, I don't care that the Rams just got blown out. I don't care that the Buccaneers just lost. I don't care that the Chiefs have been struggling. These are still teams that overall have high-powered offenses. When you have high-powered offenses like that, you are going to be more of a threat in today's NFL. You should be prioritizing bringing in players to help Lamar Jackson. This offensive line is terrible. Lamar Jackson, keep this in mind, man. Lamar Jackson in 9 games has been sacked 28 times. That is the 3rd highest amount of sacks in the league out of any other quarterback. The only two quarterbacks who have been sacked more than Lamar Jackson this season are Justin Fields and Ryan Tannehill, who each have been sacked 29 times. And mind you, Ryan Tannehill, he's played one more game so far. They haven't had their bye week yet, but still, the only two quarterbacks who have been sacked more this year are Justin Fields and Ryan Tannehill. The Ravens should be embarrassed of themselves. This offensive line should be embarrassed of themselves. Everybody should be embarrassed of themselves. You have pretty much the most elusive quarterback the NFL has ever seen. It is extremely hard to tackle this person. It is extremely hard to catch this person. More often than not, he's usually avoiding sacks. He's usually avoiding tackles. And you still have allowed him to be sacked 28 times in 9 games. I don't think people are really sitting back to understand the magnitude of how insane that is. Imagine what would happen if we had just a statue type of quarterback playing for us who isn't mobile and can't get out of the way. Imagine what the sack number would be then. The sack number then would probably be triple what it is right now. You literally have Houdini at quarterback and you can't protect him. And you have a group of Ravens fans who are just turning a blind eye and acting as if that's not a top priority. It is a top priority. Like, this is ridiculous, man. And then you had people these idiots who try to convince themselves that, oh, we don't need any more receivers. We don't need Odell Beckham Jr. We're loaded. These dumb motherfucker said, we don't need Odell because we are loaded. That's what they said. They said because we are loaded. They described this pathetic, they described this mediocre group of receivers as loaded. That is laughable, dog. You got teams like the Rams that already had Cooper Kupp, already had a Robert Woods, and they still brought in Odell Beckham Jr. That is a loaded roster. That's what a loaded offense looks like. That's what a loaded receiver that's what a loaded receiver room looks like, you idiots. The Buccaneers have 3 number 1 receivers and arguably the best tight end of all time. You idiots. That's what loaded looks like. This receiver room in Baltimore is crowded. It is not loaded. It is crowded with a bunch of mid-wide receivers. Ridiculous. And I seen people a few weeks ago, well, it's been more than a few weeks, like a month ago or so. You know, they prematurely were celebrating how well Sammy Watkins is doing, and I'm happy for Sammy Watkins. I wanted him to do well, but at the same time, my biggest concern was, can he stay healthy? And the answer was no, because he just missed a month. And at the end of the day, you had people who were coming out here saying, oh, well, you know, they were prematurely celebrating how well Sammy had started the season off, and they were saying, oh, well, look, it turns out we didn't need these other guys. We didn't need Kenny Golladay or anybody else that we was trying to get in the off season. They prematurely tried to celebrate, and that very week they did that, Sammy Watkins hurt his hamstring and missed a month. And then he came back into this game and he played a big role in us losing. Number one, that early pass in the game, that was a touchdown pass, man. I watched that clip multiple times, that deep shot Lamar took to Sammy Watkins. I watched that clip multiple times and I slowed it down just so I could see the exact moment the ball reached. Well, by the time the ball was like halfway towards the ground, to get an idea of, was it actually catchable for Sammy? That was in reach. That was a reachable ball. And then on top of that, Sammy had given up on running after the ball before it even got to him. He was only a half step behind that ball. Plus, if he had just kept running while at the same time reached out or dived out for that ball, he would have had that ball. That was not that was not a pass that was out of his reach. And that's the difference when you don't invest in the best possible receivers. Julio Jones would have made that catch. You could have had Julio Jones this offseason. You chose not to. Antonio Brown would have made that catch. You could have had Antonio Brown. You chose not to. Odell Beckham Jr. would have made that catch. You chose not to. You chose to bring in Sammy. You chose to go cheap. And it's ridiculous. And then on top of that, Sammy had another play, and I'm getting kind of mean with Sammy, even though I do like Sammy Watkins. I think he's talented, but at the same time, there are levels. Just because a receiver is good and talented doesn't mean they're in the same league as somebody like Julio Jones, who was available a few months ago, who's still playing at a high level, who's already solidified himself as a future Hall of Famer. But then of course, another play Sammy had in the game was that catch he had. It was like a 7-yard catch where he ended up fumbling the ball, where I think it was Xavier Howard who punched the ball out, recovered the fumble, and then ran in for a touchdown. This is ridiculous, man. Just all around ridiculous, man. I don't even understand, man. Like, I don't understand why Steve Bisciotti hasn't stepped in by now and said, okay, man, I gotta get rid of all these people. Because nobody on this team, nobody running this team, nobody in this front office cares about winning a Super Bowl. They don't. This is why I said I respect the Rams general manager. whether this whole situation the Rams got works out or not, at the end of the day, the general manager for the Rams recognizes that he has several elite players that are in their prime, and this is the best chance right now that he's gonna have at winning a Super Bowl in a long time. Again, you got a prime Jalen Ramsey, a prime Aaron Donald, a prime Cooper Kupp, and a prime Robert Woods. And they said, you know what? We're just going to keep doubling down. Forget about all these draft picks, because that's exactly what you're supposed to do when you have the talent necessary to get you to a Super Bowl. You're not supposed to be focusing on the draft. You're supposed to be focusing on bringing in more elite players who can play at a high level. And then even if you do want to focus on the draft, you got to make picks that are in your best interest. Not picking offensive linemen, not picking a more offensive linemen in the draft, and not going after more offensive linemen in free agency and before the trade deadline. That was not in the best interest of this team. Protecting Lamar and getting Lamar weapons should be in the best interest of this team. And Eric DeCosta has chosen not to do that. He needs to go. He doesn't have the balls to get the job done. These guys are complacent. They are happy just being relevant enough to kind of be in the playoff picture. That's what they're happy being, and that's not good enough. And a lot of these pathetic, low confidence having fans are also happy just being good enough to be relevant, not realizing that you have a quarterback with enough talent to drag you to a Super Bowl if you just give him a good enough line and good enough players who can catch the ball consistently. Again, all these guys need to go. John Harbaugh definitely needs to go, because he's clearly not interested in getting rid of his friends. They all need to go. You have a generational talent and you're wasting his time. And that's why Lamar ain't signed nothing yet. If I was Lamar, I wouldn't sign anything either. Why would I re-sign and recommit to a team that refuses to commit to me? You can't tell me this team wants to commit to Lamar when they're paying all this money to defensive players who don't produce, but they refuse to go out and spend money on players on the offensive side of the ball who can actually make a difference, who can actually be playmakers. And again, this is not a shot at players like Hollywood. I like Hollywood. Hollywood is easily going to have a 1,000-yard season. But at the same time, there was a play in that game like where Lamar threw that he took that deep shot and he threw it to Hollywood. That was a 50-50 ball kind of catch. It was right in Hollywood's range, but guess what? Hollywood's not the type of receiver who can pull that ball down, and that was shown in that play because that ball was within Hollywood's range and Hollywood couldn't bring it down. It makes a big difference, man. It makes a very big difference. You got the Dolphins, who have the worst one of the 4 worst defenses in the NFL, and they held you to 10 points. This team, like they do every year, every game pretty much this year, have gotten off to a slow start, and it bit them in the butt this time. And you can't say this is an overreaction, because again, we're 9 games into the season. The season's halfway over, and the same problems keep popping up. So what do you, and mind you, we haven't even entered the hardest part of our schedule yet. You guys struggle like this against a team like the Dolphins. We got to go play the Bears next week. This offensive line has to block Khalil Mack next week. And then after that, we got to go play the Browns and see Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. And then after that, we got to go see the Steelers. Then after that, we got to go see the Browns again. Then after that, we got to go see the Packers. Then after that, we got to go see the Rams. Then after that, we got to go see the Bengals again. Then after that, we got to go see the Steelers again. We didn't even get to the hardest part of our season yet. And this team is looking awful. Everybody got to go, man. These coaches have to go. This is ridiculous. Incompetent. Just up and down from the top of this coaching staff to the bottom of this coaching staff. It is just a group of incompetent people. The Dolphins in this entire game ran cover 0 blitz, and Greg Roman had no adjustments for it. Again, this is another game where things weren't going the Ravens' way, and the coaches refused to make adjustments. And then afterwards, John Harbaugh says in a press conference interview, yeah, we got answers for cover blitz. You know, if a lot of teams, they try that, they're going to be really surprised. Well, if you had an answer, why didn't you use the answer in that game? Ridiculous. Greg Roman is an incompetent offensive coordinator. Greg Roman sucks. I am not debating people on this anymore, dog. Do not talk to me about anything else. Greg Roman sucks. Wink Martindale sucks. John Harbaugh, his time has come. He needs to go. It is a wrap. And if Eric DeCosta does not have the balls to do it, he needs to go too. All these people need to go. I said in a live when I was in the live stream, when I was in like the lunch break hot take live stream, I said, look, the Baltimore is a poverty franchise. They are a poverty franchise wearing a Gucci belt. That is exactly what they are. You got people in the media painting this beautiful picture about the Ravens, and oh my gosh, they're such a wonderful organization and blah blah blah. No, this is a poverty organization that is currently being dragged to greatness by a quarterback who is being done dirty by this front office. This is ridiculous, man. Ridiculous. And again, if I'm Lamar, I'm not signing an extension. I'm not signing any extension. If Greg Roman's staying, I'm not signing anything. Worst case scenario, you're gonna have to franchise tag me, dog. Ridiculous. Think about all this time being wasted. The NFL is wide open right now. Every team is looking shaky. Now, granted, certain teams, when it comes down to it, they're gonna perform because they just have superior offenses. But look, man, the NFL is wide open right now, and the Ravens are showing no aggression. They're showing no interest in going hard. The Chiefs are struggling. The Bills are struggling. Any team you could think of, they're also having struggles. The only difference between them and the Ravens is they have a high-powered offense. So when it comes down to the wire, they are more likely to outperform everybody else. Whereas the Ravens, they're not likely to outperform everybody else. Lamar is likely to perform everybody else. And then he just has to hope that he gets enough help from everybody to put the pieces together. Otherwise, because again, this team is so bad, in order for this team to win, Lamar has to play just on a godly level just to win by a small margin. That should speak volumes to you. You see Lamar Jackson on the sideline, pissed, screaming, frustrated. Why? Because he knows this is bullcrap. He knows that he is being done dirty right now. And this coaching staff has done nothing about it. This owner has done nothing about it so far. I'm seeing news saying Le'Veon Bell got cut. Whatever. Why is there no news? I'm waiting to see news saying Greg Roman's been cut. I'm waiting to see news saying Wink Martindale has been cut. I'm waiting for news saying John Harbaugh has been cut. I'm waiting for news saying that these coaches and this general manager are gone. That's the news I'm waiting for. I don't care if Le'Veon Bell stays or goes. It didn't matter. He had a couple of good moments, but overall, he was not the key piece to this team. We know who the key piece is. I don't think I have anything else to say, man. They gave up. I just can't even. Never.